Whenever the McCanns did emerge, they were peered at like specimens.
Jerry, what is your status? Jerry, what is your status?
If that wasn't bad enough, when the McCanns decided to fly home on the Sunday, the news was with them every step of the way. We could watch the McCanns leaving their villa, fighting past reporters, arriving at the airport. We heard from fellow passengers, what do you think? What do you think? We saw reporters outside the airport interviewing other reporters. In fact, if you were quick, you could amuse yourself by watching a van drive past Kay Burley, then change channels quick enough to see it pass behind Jane Hill on News 24. The McCanns were even followed onto the plane, and all the way home.
The road behind them was left clear, so they could be afforded a little bit of privacy. The road behind that is where our correspondent Ian Woods is seated with our cameraman Kevin.
So they're on the plane. They look, I have to say, relatively relaxed. They're both up, just taking care of the kids at the moment. We're just trying to ascertain from them as to whether or not they are going to be prepared to make any sort of a statement either during the course of the flight or when they get to East Midlands Airport.
A camera was trained on East Midlands Airport half of Sunday afternoon, just so we could see their plane land.
Yes, there was a degree of pleading there, I think, from Jerry, that to leave them alone as much as possible to try and give them some sense of privacy and normality.
This was not news. This was just looking at stuff, and the only message it imparted was look, look, look. Keep looking at them. Look, look, look. How much has news reporting changed over the last 10 years?
Well, you can go live from almost anywhere at no notice. Cameras don't have to be wired up to a satellite truck so they can roam about more. You can point a laptop at the sky and do a video phone live from the top of a mountain in Afghanistan. Downside is the viewers aren't that impressed by the fact that you're live outside the High Court. It's no longer a big deal.
What are the prime sins for a reporter?
How many ways are there to say, I don't know? Well, a good way to find out is to watch a reporter going live from a breaking story. This story is still developing, or details are still patchy, or the full picture is only just emerging, or it's too early to know exactly, or there are conflicting reports, or police are saying little. Often you can tell the reporter's only just pitched up in a taxi and is being fed whatever he or she knows from the studio through an earpiece. This is the central paradox of a live report from the scene, that it's almost always the place where a reporter is least likely to find anything out. Often, a presenter knows before the reporter, and you have the bizarre scenario of someone who already knows something, asking someone who still doesn't, who then has to bluff their way out of it. Some presenters like to torture reporters by demonstrating they're better informed. That's a real trick.
Well, now it's time for all the latest from the world of sport. Actually, no, it's not. Sport isn't news, it's sport, and look at it, it's rubbish. Bollocks to sport and bollocks to everyone who likes it. Of course, the inherent problem with the news is that it's usually bloody boring. The storylines are slow and often depressing. It's sometimes difficult to understand, and the cast has all the vivacious sex appeal of a clammy-browed sales rep blowing off after a corned beef sandwich. All of which is box office poison. So what does the news do? Well, it pretends it isn't boring with all manner of unnecessary garnish. News graphics used to be handcrafted Blue Peter-style creations that made everything look a bit like the lowest budget war movie ever made.
Even further on, a growing Soviet Indian Ocean fleet already has facilities in Aden, the capital of Marxist South Yemen. And tonight, that fleet is being reinforced by another squadron from the Pacific port of Vladivostok.
Then in the 80s, computer graphics arrived and designers went to town with their new set of toys. Wow, it's incredible! Crazy! Cool! Bright! Edgy! Educational! Intense! Gosh! Christ! Wow! Jesus! Ace! Brill! Skill! Fab! Woo! Ah! Oh! Ooh! Today, news graphics have developed into a bombastic art form. Trouble is, they're so whizzy, they actively distract you from the information they're supposed to convey.
Our defence correspondent Jeff Mead has the story.
Looking at this, it's hard not to wonder if news has lost its way. News reporting is supposed to consist largely of the 6 W's. Who, what, where, when, why and how. How doesn't start with a W, but it ends with one, so it still counts. Essentially, if you answer all those questions, you've covered the full story and the viewer goes away informed. But today there's a 7th W, whoa, and whoa takes precedence over all the others. Whoa! Look at those graphics! Whoa! Listen to that dramatic music! Whoa! F***ing hell, live pictures! Today, even the newsroom sets have evolved into absurdist sci-fi cathedrals of light. The BBC favours a huge room resembling a holodeck, so huge the floor managers can't even run out of the way in time before the news starts. Sky, meanwhile, has a gaudy red and blue approximation of CTU from 24, with screens on every surface imaginable, even the desk where they can beam summaries of every f***ing sentence as they're being spoken aloud, presumably, so you can desperately cling to some sense of what the hell's going on. Actually, I quite like Sky's massive screen because it sometimes coughs out some pretty surreal imagery. ITV's set is the stupidest. It's a cross between a virtual aircraft hangar and the movie Tron. There's still a desk, of course, but now it glows, and there's also a strange sort of symbol on the floor. It's like a mystic rune or a crop circle. Look, I've tried drawing it. Look, what does that mean? I keep expecting to be abducted one day by stormtroopers wearing that symbol on their arms. When it was a boring bloke sitting at a boring desk being boring, the news was easy to ignore if you didn't want to pay attention to it. But now it's so dramatically packaged it can lead to a sense of panic. Sometimes a very British type of panic. I'm talking about queuing. When the story that Northern Rock had requested help from the Bank of England broke, concerned customers started queuing up, and of course the news was there. The thing is, queuing isn't very exciting. Not as exciting as, say, well, I don't know, panic?
Panic across the country, a run on Britain's fifth largest bank.
And Northern Rock appeals for calm and urges its customers not to panic.
Northern Rock's share price plunges as panic engulfs the troubled bank. On high streets around the country, savers queue, desperate to withdraw their money. Tonight, don't bank on it. The calls for calm go unheeded.
Well, the tone of this is certainly allaying my fears. They pulled out all the stops. There were animated headlines wondering why has it gone so wrong, and some weird little bloke standing in hyperspace conducting rivers of banknotes around the screen. In a bid to whip up a frenzy, they even wheeled out the big puns.
Things look rocky for Northern Rock.
Competing for attention amongst all the news pizzazz was Alistair Darling, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. But a weedy-browed man is no match for all the surrounding theatrical seriousness, especially when he's backed with pounding dramatic drums.
If people want to put money in, or if they want to take money out, they can get their money out. The bank is able to provide them with the funds if they want to withdraw their saving.
You know, if I was Alistair Darling, I'd insist on being accompanied by a string quartet all the time, just so they couldn't dub that sinister music over me. Look how much more relaxing it is.
If people want to put money in, or if they want to take money out, they can get their money out.
Anyway, next day, guess which had won out? Quiet appeals for common sense, or don't bank on it?
Calm down. The Chancellor renews his plea tonight as thousands of Northern Rock savers ignore his advice.
Compounding the problem, the news spends more time than ever asking people what they think. And people aren't financial experts, they're just people.
Many of these people simply don't trust what they're being told.
The Chancellor has said, don't panic.
So did the captain of the Titanic. That went down.
A valid financial point. At times it felt like they were willing people to panic.
You're actually just adding to the hysteria here. What do you say to that? I'm not panicking. Are you here to get your money out? Yeah. Some people might say that is panic.
Go on, panic properly, shit yourself in the queue. Even Ron Jeremy got his 2 cents in.
But when the government says, don't panic, I start to worry a bit.
And then I lose wood. What you have here is a sort of echo chamber. The sense of drama and the live footage of snaking queues creates a rolling stone. And yet the news still seemed mystified as to where the panic had come from.
Thank you for updating us there in Kingston. As you say, that branch due to open in about 25 minutes' time. Back to you, of course, when that happens, to see the rush.
Well, that's all the Screenwipe for this evening. Good night.
Charlie's back for another blistering Screenwipe next Tuesday at 10. Next tonight on BBC4, the Why Democracy season continues with radical new politics in Bolivia, looking for the revolution.